Welcome to the Anime Audiophile Podcast. Please like and subscribe for more. Thank you. Demon Slayer, the Flower of Happiness. Chapter 1. The Flower of Happiness. The crisp black kimono with long sleeves and beautiful patterns would illuminate his little sister's pale skin. The gorgeous gold moriobi belt might have made her, a natural warrior, frown and say it was too extravagant. Would she shed tears beneath her ebony hair tied up with ornaments in the elaborate Bunkin Shimada style? Tears not of sadness, but of great joy. My little sister, kinder than anyone in this world. A girl who hasn't lost the warmth she had as a person, even now, as a demon. I pray I can make you happy, the happiest girl in the world. A celebration? He asked. Yes, Hisa said, and her eyes, already narrow as threads, narrowed even further with her broad smile. Happily, one of the village's girls is to Wednesday. A family crest adorned with a wisteria flower was proof that the household would spare no effort in the service of the Demon Slayer Corps, all free of charge. Members of such families never forgot their debt to members of this corps for saving them, and so they repaid them for their services. Thus, Demon Slayers injured in the line of duty sought out families with the wisteria crest. Hisa's was just one such home. That day marked 10 days since Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Nezuko had arrived at the house to rest and heal after a difficult fight. The demon Nezuko slept in a box of Kurikumo cedar during the day, and the people of the household generally only had contact with the three boys. Thanks to meals bursting with all the mountain's bounty, fluffy futons, soft kimono, and heartfelt hospitality, the three of them and their broken ribs were recovering quite happily. She'll be leaving us for the home of a prominent man in the town closest to our village, Hisa told them. That is definitely worth a celebration. Congratulations to her, Tanjiro said from the bottom of his heart. Hisa grinned and continued. If you don't mind, I'd love it if you Demon Slayers were to celebrate with us. What? Us? Of course, Hisa said. That is, if you're well enough to join us. I'd hate for you to try to do too much too soon. No, we're all fine now. Tanjiro hesitated. But are you really sure it's all right for us to go? Hisa nodded, a cloud of white hair bobbing on her head. According to her, there was to be an informal celebration with friends and family in the village that evening, and then the bride would make her formal departure the following afternoon. She would head to the neighboring town, where there would be a big ceremony at her new husband's house. Any girl on the eve of her marriage was even lovelier than usual, her features full of hope, and this unusually good match had the villagers all the more excited. Everyone would be delighted if the Demon Slayers celebrated this joy with us, Hisa said. In that case, we happily accept. Tanjiro looked over his shoulder. Right, Zenitsu? Inosuke? Yeah, of course, Zenitsu responded, rubbing his hands. Together. Unlike a demon hunt, there's absolutely nothing scary about a celebration like this. We'll get to eat delicious food and have a look at the beautiful young bride, so it's two birds with one stone. But no matter how cute she is, she'll never be a match for Nezuko, you know? No, I know that. At any rate, I'm quite devoted to Nezuko. Please don't make any mistake about that. What's a celebration? Inosuke, on the other hand, headbutted Tanjiro's side as he chomped away on the manju bun he held in both hands. Oh. Tanjiro frowned. It was disturbing. Or rather, Zenitsu was disturbing. This kind of thing was now, or rather, had become over the last few days a thoroughly established ritual. The second Zenitsu found out that Nezuko was Tanjiro's little sister, his attitude had become excessively ingratiating. With Inosuke, it was the headbutt. He likely just wanted to interact with people in his own special way, but he whipped out this headbutt whenever and wherever he got the chance. Honestly, it exhausted Tanjiro. His ribs would never heal with this going on. And it was disturbing. Zenitsu was disturbing. Why do you say such creepy things, Zenitsu? Quit speaking so rudely of the bride. And you, Inosuke. This celebration is to honor the couple getting married. Oh. Inosuke, behave. Stop headbutting me. He complained to his friends, gently, and turned back to Hisa, bowing before her. We would be delighted to join the celebration. Thank you so much. Well then, I am also delighted. The elderly woman lowered her head so far that her forehead nearly touched the tatami mat covering the floor. Tonight, let us feast at the house. A broad smile spread across her face. I expect that you young people would prefer meat, of course. Unfortunately, we poor villagers are not so familiar with such fashionable dishes. No, you've done so much for us already. Tanjiro hurriedly waved his hands in protest and received an abrupt shove. That, Inosuke shouted. The thing you always make. Make that, lady. It's gotta be that. Come on. Inosuke. Tanjiro chided him. All you're saying is that. You have to actually say what it is, Zenitsu snapped. However, Hisa nodded in understanding. You wish to have that, then. Tempura, yes? With the little coat? Yeah. Yes, yes, she reassured him. We'll fry up a great deal of that. Do you have enough tea cakes? No, Inosuke barked. So go and bring the thing. Got it? That thing. Yes, yes. Mochi chips, I'll bring some right away, Hisa responded. Unperturbed, she left the room. It probably also had to do with her age, but Hisa's manner and bearing were very quiet. She made almost no noise. Once again, she slid the Fusuma door shut without a sound. Amazing that she even understood all of that. He basically didn't say anything else. Zenitsu turned half admiring, half exasperated eyes toward the door Hisa had disappeared through. True, Tanjiro agreed. Inosuke himself was intent on eating his manju and not paying attention to a word either of them said. He had made a real fuss at the beginning of their stay. Ain't no way. Wearing kimono, living inside a house, that's straight up torture. Not a chance. Who do you think I am? I'm the king of the mountain. But now, although his torso was still as naked as always, Inosuke appeared to have gotten quite comfortable with life indoors. At the very least, he didn't seem to think it was torture anymore. From the moment they had first arrived on her doorstep, Hisa hadn't been afraid of Inosuke. The old woman had taken painstaking care of him, seeing to his every need as if he were her own grandson. The ostentatious boar's head never seemed to frighten her, and she paid no mind to any of the many strange things he did. Thinking about this, Tanjiro was filled with a warm feeling. I'm so lucky, he thought. He felt like he and his fellow demon slayers had grown closer over these past 10 days, despite Zenitsu's weird fawning and Inosuke's constant and unpredictable headbutts. Perhaps it was because they had bathed and eaten the same meals together, or that they'd shared the same clean sleeping space, warm bathroom, and Hisa's heartfelt welcome. Above all else, neither of them shunned Nezuko for being a demon. They welcomed her into their group just as she was. He couldn't begin to express how happy that made him. Hey! How can you just sit there and eat all the manju? Zenitsu cried, interrupting Tanjiro's fond contemplation. Some of those are for me and Tanjiro, you know? You stupid pig. Shut up, Budnitsu, Inosuke barked. You snooze, you lose. It's Zenitsu. Who is Budnitsu? Shut it, brat. This is my turf. Oh. I see. I'm so sorry. It's just, wait, what turf ka? Crybaby. You'll never get the jump on me. Gra-ha-ha-ha-ha. Inosuke punched Zenitsu in the face, and the yellow-haired boy writhed on the tatami. Inosuke's throaty, bestial laughter filled the room. Tanjiro let out a sigh. Inosuke. You can't go punching Zenitsu. Zenitsu got a proper jab in at Inosuke, and the boar-headed boy pummeled him mercilessly in return. Reluctant, Tanjiro stepped between them. This, too, was becoming an established ritual. Ah, the bride was so beautiful. Zenitsu sighed happily. Serious feast. Inosuke burped. As Tanjiro walked back to Hisa's with his friends after the banquet, he recalled how lovely and innocent the bride had looked. Blessed with good looks to begin with, the young woman dazzled with her beauty on the eve of her marriage into a powerful family. The brilliant smile stretched across her face gave away the girl's happiness better than any words could have. The gorgeous black furosode kimono patterned with flying cranes and blooming flowers and the magnificent gold moriobi had paled in comparison to the wonder of that smile. So he started to say. Who? What? Zenitsu asked. Oh, it's nothing. Tanjiro shook his head slightly. The bride could have been around Nezuko's age. The moment he had this thought, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. Where'd that come from? Frowning, Tanjiro gently shifted the wooden box on his back. SKRTCH. He heard fingernails scratching from inside the box and nearly jumped up into the air. Oh. For some reason, his sister being awake when he thought she was asleep made his heart skip several beats. But why was that lady wearing that? Inosuke asked no one in particular. I mean, in a kimono with such long sleeves, she's not gonna be able to climb a tree. No way she's catching a rabbit or a bird. The boar head tilted to one side as if this were a true mystery for the ages. Ah, this is exactly why I hate country bumpkins, Zenitsu said with a sigh. She's not going to be living rough on the mountain, okay? That girl's going to be the wife of an important merchant. She's marrying into wealth. A rich man. Get it? She's a beauty, so she's going to marry a wealthy man, wear a beautiful kimono, and spend her days cherished like a butterfly or a rare flower. Seriously, though, Inosuke continued. Why pick a dark color like that? Doesn't she know the bees are gonna come right for her if she's wearing a black kimono up on the mountain? I mean, come on. You gotta go for a color that's all pal for a party, you know? So boring. I told you she's not going up into the mountains. Zenitsu snapped. The special black furosode kimono is just what a bride wears that and the snow white kimono. It's this way of saying, the only color I'll be dyed with is you to her future husband. Ah, I wish someone would say that to me. Maybe even Nezuko. Wee. His voice slid up into a creepy falsetto as he trailed off ecstatically. What is this guy talking about? Inosuke said blankly. Toho creep. Of all the people in the world, you don't get to say that. Zenitsu flew into a rage at Inosuke's insult. Right, Tanjiro? Tanjiro jerked his head up and offered a noncommittal response. Oh. I dunno. His mind was strangely distracted and unsettled. He kept feeling something stuck in his throat. What's wrong? It's like you're somewhere else, Zenitsu said in an anxious tone, and he tugged on the sleeve of Tanjiro's Haori coat. Did something happen? He's probably hungry, Inosuke said, chewing on some mochi from the party. You didn't eat anything back there, did you? There was a whole mountain of delicious stuff too. Stupid. He gulped down the last of the mochi and slammed a fist against his chest. Hang on, Tanjiro. I'll go back and get you the rest of that food. No. You don't have to do that. Finally snapping out of it, Tanjiro hurried to stop Inosuke's wild mission before it could start. He couldn't let him charge back into that celebration like some bandit. He'd ruin the happy day. Don't be shy. It's a boss's duty to take care of his underlings. I'm not being shy. I'm just not hungry. Don't eat when you can, and you'll regret it, you know? There was a hunk of meat this big, okay? A whole heap of fruit too. I'm telling you, I'm really not hungry, Inosuke, Tanjiro insisted. But Inosuke was like a dog with a bone, eventually forcing Tanjiro to bow deeply and beg Inosuke to not go back. Inosuke finally, albeit very grudgingly, gave up on his mission. Zenitsu peered at Tanjiro's face, looking slightly concerned. What's the matter, Tanjiro? You've been weird this whole time. Weird? Tanjiro's eyebrows shot up. Me? Yeah. You're making, like, a weird sound. A moment of silence passed, during which Tanjiro's heart skipped a beat. Zenitsu's sense of hearing was much sharper than that of the average person, and he could even pick out the sounds of different emotions. It worked a lot like Tanjiro's own sense of smell. And now he was saying that Tanjiro sounded weird. Flustered, Tanjiro remained silent. I get it, Zenitsu murmured, preempting any explanation from Tanjiro with an unusually serious expression on his face. It's about Nezuko, right? A dash. Tanjiro's heart jumped up into his throat. When Tanjiro was at a loss for words, Zenitsu nodded to himself with a look that said he understood everything. You were picturing the day when Nezuko gets married, and you got all sad, didn't you? Tanjiro stared at Zenitsu, dumbfounded. Listen, Tanjiro. You can't be like that. For Nezuko's sake, just be happy for her when someone comes along to marry her, okay? Tanjiro still could not muster a sound. Zenitsu's comments slightly missed the mark. In his mind, Demon Nezuko would get married like a normal girl and go off to be with her husband's family like a normal girl. Zenitsu's thinking wasn't too surprising since he had never been concerned that Nezuko was a demon. Tanjiro was deeply grateful for his friend's mindset, but that wasn't quite what was troubling him. He had this feeling that there was something fundamentally, definitively different going on in his heart, but he didn't know what it was. It just felt bad, like a small bone lodged in his throat. Yeah. You're making, like, a weird sound. It's about Nezuko, right? Why had he jumped in such surprise at Zenitsu's harmless comments? Confused, he gently placed a hand over his heart. THMP. THMP. He felt it carving out its tiny rhythm and opened his ears, listening as hard as he could. Still, he couldn't hear the sound that Zenitsu was talking about. Well, of course not. It's not like my ears are as sharp as his. What exactly was going on with him? Tanjiro frowned. Unaware of the confusion Tanjiro was feeling, Zenitsu spoke brightly of the day Nezuko would marry, while Inosuke listed the foods they had eaten earlier that were most delicious. Just when the anxious gloom in his heart was starting to overwhelm Tanjiro, he heard a childish voice cry out. Listen, Akari. You obviously can't, okay? It'll be dark soon. You'll get eaten by demons. But I want to marry into a big house in town just like Toyo. I don't want to work, protested an even younger voice. I said no. You big meanie. You're no fun. You're a stupid meanie. What did you say? Go ahead and say that one more time. Tanjiro looked over and saw two little girls arguing. One was around 10, and the other was maybe 7. Their faces, brows furrowed, cheeks puffed out, were surprisingly alike, so they were probably sisters. Like Toyo. Does she mean the bride from the party? Tanjiro walked toward them, and the younger girl grabbed onto the older girl's sleeve when she caught sight of him. What's the matter? He asked, crouching down so as not to scare them. What are you fighting about? The older girl glanced at him and replied with her own question. Are you a demon slayer? You're staying at Mrs. Hisa's house. He nodded. I'm Tanjiro. Are you sisters? Yes. I'm Akane, the older girl said. This is my little sister Akari. The shy Akari hid behind her sister. She then poked her face out to peek at Tanjiro before ducking back. Tanjiro grinned at this very childlike gesture. Rokuta used to be like that too. Actually, Shigeru, Hanako, Takeo, and even Nezuko had all gone through a stage like this. As he remembered those long-gone days, Tanjiro asked the sisters, "When you said Toyo, did you mean the girl who's marrying the merchant in town?" "Yes," Akane said. "So, did you know?" Akari popped her face out again. "Toyo, she found a vine lantern." "A vine lantern?" Tanjiro cocked his head to one side. He'd been raised in the mountains, but this was the first time he'd heard this term. "Is that a flower or something?" It's a flower." Akari bobbed her head up and down and pointed to the nearby mountain with a small finger. "It grows up there. If you find one, you can marry Purple." "Purple?" he asked and then understood. "Oh, you mean marry into the purple. That's how come Toyo gets to go be the wife of a rich man," the little girl told him smugly. "That's just a superstition." Akari frowned. "It's a village legend from a long time ago. Keep the flower that only blooms on the night of the new moon against your skin, and you will marry the person you love and live a life happier than all others." Akari heard the aunties saying that Toyo made such a good match, she must have found a vine lantern. "Oh, I get it." Tanjiro slapped a fist into his open palm. "And since tonight's the new moon?" "Yes." Akane nodded, looking troubled. "She says she's going to go. Pick one. Even though I keep telling her it's not a real flower." So that was why they were arguing. Their argument was silly, but the following evening was no joke. Once it got dark, as it soon would, the demons would start to come out. The older sister was right to worry. Tanjiro peered at Akari, still glued to her sister's back, as he said, "But the mountains are dangerous at night, you know?" "I'm already 6 years old," the girl with the bowl cut replied with a headstrong look on her face. Tanjiro burst out laughing in his head, but he made sure the look on his face was extremely serious as he explained, "It's dangerous for grown-ups too." "Because of the demons?" she asked. Tanjiro nodded. "Are demons scary?" "Very scary," Tanjiro told her in a grave tone. Akari seemed to think for a moment. "Okay," she said, apparently reluctant. "I won't go up the mountain." Akane's sigh showed her relief. "Thank you so much. You've been a very big help." She bowed deeply and then yanked on her little sister's arm. "Come on. Let's go." Tanjiro watched the two of them walk away. "What's the matter, Tanjiro? Who were those girls?" Zenitsu asked as he trotted over with Inosuke right behind him. "They say something to you?" "Yeah." Tanjiro relayed what the girls had just told him. "PFT. Stupid. Just kids playing around." Inosuke wasn't even the slightest bit interested, but Zenitsu seemed fascinated. "Hua, what an interesting flower," he murmured. "How great would it be to marry the person you love and be the happiest person in the world? Although, the marrying into wealth part, I think that's a bit of a stretch." "It's nothing more than a legend, Zenitsu," Tanjiro reminded him, remembering the burning intensity of Zenitsu's desire to get married. This, after all, was the guy who had begged a girl he just met on the road to marry him, sobbing all the while. "Akane said it's not a real flower." "Well, of course it's not," Zenitsu agreed. "But girls, well, they're easy prey for these kinds of fantastic legends about love." "They are?" Tanjiro said. "Oh yeah. They like spells and stuff too, right?" Zenitsu told him, confidently. "There's that whole he loves me not thing too. A flower that only blooms on the night of the new moon is exactly the sort of thing girls go wild for." "Oh, hey! They say your wish will come true if you make it on the night of the new moon, so maybe that's where it comes from. In that case, just maybe, I mean, there are a lot of legends that aren't total garbage. There might actually be a flower like that. You really know your stuff, huh, Zenitsu? Tanjiro complimented his friend's surprisingly astute analysis. Oh, you! Flattery'll get you nowhere. Zenitsu chuckled creepily in embarrassment, his face turning red. Wee. When Tanjiro really thought about it, Zenitsu probably only knew all of this because he had some vulgar ulterior motive like making conversation with girls, but it still duly impressed Tanjiro. Huh. So girls like that kind of stuff, he thought, and then paused. Nezuko too? He smiled at the feel of the hard Kurikumo cedar box pressing against his back. The charming figure of the bride-to-be Toyo overlapped with Nezuko in his mind. His little sister wearing the traditional, beautiful black kimono and smiling. Happily. Joyfully. This image quickly cleared away the fog in his head. Was that it? He finally understood the cause of his gloomy anxiety. Hey! You guys! Who cares about some dumb flower? We gotta get back to the old ladies. She's waiting to fry us some of that stuff with the little coat, Inosuke yelled as his stomach loudly growled. Remembering the feast leftovers probably made him hungry. Come on. Quit dragging your feet. Wait. You want to eat again? Does your stomach never get full? Zenitsu said, rolling his eyes. He looked back at Tanjiro. What's wrong? You coming? Tanjiro stood stock still in the road, staring off into the distance. Tanjiro? Zenitsu asked. He hesitated slightly and then said, sorry. I have to do something first. You and Inosuke go on ahead. Impatient, he turned and hurried after Akane and Ikari. Oh! There they are. He'd been worried he would have trouble finding them given the time since they had walked away, but these were two little girls, after all. Aided by the power of his nose, Tanjiro quickly caught up with the small shadows happily holding hands in the twilight sun. Akane! Ikari, he called out. Wait a second. Older and younger sisters looked back at him with similarly curious looks on their faces. Mr. Demon Slayer? Is something wrong? I want you to tell me everything you know about the Vine Lantern, he said. The girls each blinked slowly, eyes opening wide in surprise. Wee. What? Really? Why, you? Wee. Fwoo. Huh? He. Oh, Nezuko, you? NGH. That evening, Zenitsu was in the middle of an extremely good dream when someone fiercely shook his shoulders where they poked out from under his blankets. New. Go away. Ah, I'm at a really good part right now. Don't bother me, Inosuke. NGH. Wee. That's not true. Moi. Nezuko, you are so cute. SNRR he. He rolled over to try and escape the annoying hands on his shoulders. The person trying to wake him remained silent but undeterred. Now something whapped him on the forehead, and his brow creased as he slept. What? Now it's Tanjiro? I'm talking about love with Nezuko, so hang back a bit. Fwoo. Right, Nezuko. Whap. Ever since we first met, Nezuko, I've been... Wee. No, it's true. SNRR. Right? We're destined to be together. SNRR. Whap. Duh. Come on. I said, shut up. What's with the whapping? Huh? What, exactly? You're being mean. Why do you hate me? Zenitsu snapped, finally opening his eyes at the persistent slapping. Both. However, the person peering at him in the darkness was not Inosuke nor Tanjiro, but Nezuko, who was out of her box for some reason. The moment he saw her, his anger vanished without a trace. And Nezuko? What's the matter? I mean, it's the dead of night. Zenitsu literally leaped up from his futon, flustered, his face as red as a lobster. Wait. Did you actually come to see me? No, of course that's not it. Oh. Is Inosuke's snoring too loud maybe? He really is something else, huh? Asterisk. Nezuko shook her head firmly, and her glossy black hair swung back and forth. That's not it. Wait. Me? Is it me? Was I snoring? Or maybe I was grinding my teeth? I'm so sorry. Zenitsu flailed his hands pointlessly, rushing to apologize. Nezuko shook her head once more as she indicated the futon next to him with an impatient MMF. Here, the unnatural movement of Zenitsu's hands stopped. What? Is something wrong with Tanjiro? Zenitsu peered at Tanjiro's futon, and his eyebrows jumped up as he shrieked in surprise. The futon where Tanjiro should have been sleeping was empty. Inosuke, meanwhile, was snoring on the futon on the opposite side, dead asleep. Nezuko looked around anxiously. Zenitsu suddenly understood. She was looking for Tanjiro. Most likely, Nezuko had climbed out of her box after night fell, realized her brother was nowhere to be found, and shaken Zenitsu awake. "Ah, dear, sweet Nezuko. You're too cute. You really do love your big brother. I'm so jealous, Tanjiro." But she came to me for help and not Inosuke. "Ah, dear, sweet Nezuko, I love you." Zenitsu's heart tightened in his chest. "I'm sure he just went to the washroom," he said reassuringly, with a flirtatious look. "He'll probably be back soon." Mef. Nezuko shook her head fiercely, like she was angry. Mef. Sensing that something was out of the ordinary with her, Zenitsu flipped back Tanjiro's blanket and touched his futon. It was cold. The icy chill drained the red from Zenitsu's face. The total lack of warmth made it very hard to believe that someone had been sleeping there until recently. When Zenitsu searched the room, he found that Tanjiro's core uniform and his Nichiren sword were gone. In their place, the kimono he'd been wearing was set out, folded neatly. "So you went somewhere? Tanjiro?" Zenitsu was worried now. He yanked open the sliding door that led to the garden. It was dark outside, which made the stars shine all the more beautifully. "Right," he said. "Today's the new moon." The events of the afternoon suddenly came flooding back to him. The way Tanjiro had sounded different from normal after seeing the young bride. The legend of the vine lantern, the flower that brings marriage to one's true love and all the happiness in the world. Tanjiro's heart skipping a beat the moment Nezuko's name came up. The wooden box shaking on his back as Tanjiro went after the two girls. Zenitsu looked back at Nezuko. He couldn't have. The girl who Tanjiro loved more than anything in this world, certainly more than his own self, scowled and clutched her brother's futon. His field of view showed the starry heavens. Tanjiro was lying on the damp ground. The apparent cliff he'd fallen from was higher up than he'd expected. Thankfully, he happened to fall on a pile of dead leaves, which saved him, but it seemed that he'd lost consciousness for a while. NGH. A quiet groan slipped out of him when he tried to sit up. His whole body hurt, especially his ribs. They had almost completely healed, and now this. He would feel incredibly pathetic if they broke again. And he'd never be able to look Hisa in the eyes again, not after she'd taken such good care of him. "I can't believe I fell off a cliff." Ashamed by his own lack of training, he sat up as gently as he could. The dull pain remained, but it seemed that nothing was broken. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, a nearby shrub rustled. The cause of his fall appeared from between its branches, and Tanjiro's face split in two. A grin. "So you're okay?" "That's a relief." A wild boar about the size of an adult human snorted and stared hard at Tanjiro. "You be careful from now on, okay?" he said with a smile, and the boar snorted again. A few moments earlier, it was all fine and good to climb up the mountain in search of the vine lantern, but finding a flower in the middle of the night was a much tougher task than Tanjiro had expected. He might have been raised in the mountains, but this was not the mountain he'd grown up on. Walking along the unfamiliar paths, eyes open for a flower that might not even exist, required more perseverance than he'd thought. Making it all the more difficult was that Akane and Akari had essentially zero artistic abilities, and the picture they had so painstakingly drawn for him was almost entirely useless. People say the leaves are really clear, bright green, and the stems got these big saw teeth. I heard the flower has 5 petals. They're all fluffy like this. See? Look. This kind of shape. Not like that. No. Like this, I said. Here. Honestly, you're so bad at this. I guess most of the flowers are this really deep red. Sometimes there'll be regular red or white ones, though. What else? Oh. I remember. I heard each petal's shaped like a wild boar's eye. And they're very cute. The smell? No one says anything about how they smell. Based on these few clues, the shape of the leaves, the number of petals, the color, Tanjiro had been looking along the sides of the path when a boar poked its head out from the bushes. The boar looked very much like Inosuke. Its breathing was ragged, and its entire body smelled of anger. Tanjiro looked and found a fresh wound at the base of one leg. It was pretty deep, which was probably why the creature was so worked up. "Are you hurt?" "Here, let me take a look." "It's okay." "Aw, no. If you move like that, the cut will. Watch out." When he tried to soothe the boar and get it to let him treat its wound, it very nearly fell from the cliff. Tanjiro threw himself after it to protect the animal with his own body. And now here he was. "There we go. You're all fixed up. You be careful from now on. Okay?" Tanjiro grinned after the now docile boar let him take care of its wound. The more he looked at it, the more it looked exactly like Inosuke. "Okay, I have to go look for this vine lantern." "You take care," Tanjiro said, and was about to leave when the boar clamped its jaw down on his jacket. "Oh. What's wrong? You hungry?" "But this is a haori. It's not for eating." "HRRR." The boar growled as it tugged on Tanjiro's haori. "Huh? You want me to come with you?" "HRRRN. Okay. Got it." Reading what was in the boar's heart, Tanjiro bobbed his head up and down. The boar trotted off confidently, so Tanjiro let himself be led. After they walked a fair distance, a small cave came into view beyond the dense foliage. Oh! To one side of the cave, a crimson flower bloomed. Tanjiro opened his eyes wide. Clear, bright green leaves. Each of the flower's 5 petals opening gently outward in the shape of a boar's eye. "Hey, vine lantern?" Tanjiro gasped. The lovely flower was damp with dew that shone like scattered stars. When Tanjiro's family had been taken from him in a single night, how relieved he had been to find that at least Nezuko was still breathing. How happy he had been, how that fact had kept him going. Maybe Nezuko had become a demon so that she could live on and keep her cowardly older brother from being all alone. When this thought occurred to him, he felt such love and compassion for his sister, he nearly burst into tears. Nezuko, so extraordinarily patient ever since she was little. So kind I almost want to cry. I swear I won't let anyone take anything from you ever again. I'll never let anyone hurt you. Your big brother is going to make you happy. All the happiness I couldn't bring to the others, I'll give to you. Huh? Everyone's awake? When Tanjiro returned to Hisa's house, he noticed a serious commotion in the room where he and the others were staying. Even though it was the dead of night, a lamp was lit, and the voices inside were loud enough to hear in the hallway. I told you, that idiot Tanjiro went looking for a flower on the mountain. Yes, the mountain at night. Pretty dangerous if some demon shows up, right? We're going to look for him, so you come too. That's what I'm trying to say here. Huh? Why should Lord Inosuke go looking for Tanjiro in the middle of the night? You're good on your own, yeah? The mountains at night are scary. It's too scary to go alone. TCH. Coward. And why would that idiot Tanjiro go up the mountain anyway? I told you. He went to look for a flower. Listen when people talk to you. A flower? Why would that idiot Butaro go off and pick a flower? That guy's practically a girl. He probably heard the story of the vine lantern and wanted to give one to Nezuko. Stupid Tanjiro. Huh? This wine lamp, it's some kind of food? Vine. Lantern. Those village girls were talking about it this afternoon. You were there. You heard them, right, Inosuke? You were chomping away on mochi. Did you forget? I remember the mochi. It was great. Idiot. You stupid idiot. No brain in your head. What did you say? They sure are calling me an idiot a whole lot. And the way Inosuke constantly gets my name wrong is really something. Swallowing hard, Tanjiro tentatively slid open the door. I'm back. Inside the room, Inosuke was holding Zenitsu up by the throat. Whoa! What are you doing? Stop it, Inosuke! Tanjiro hurried over to break them apart. Let go of Zenitsu. Shut up, Butajiro. This guy's making fun of me. I'm not stopping till I knock him through the roof. I keep telling you, it's against core rules for members to fight. Let go of him right now. Tanjiro barked. He somehow managed to separate the two. TCH, Inosuke clicked his tongue. Tanjiro. Zenitsu clung to him. Tanjiro patted Zenitsu's head gently and asked, Where's Nezuko? In the box? His sister poked her head out from inside his own blankets and gazed at them silently. Well, so that's where you were? Tanjiro perked up. He excitedly pulled out the flower he had tucked carefully away in the pocket of his uniform. It was just the slightest bit bent, but not wilted at all. He gently held out the shining beauty toward his little sister. I brought you this. It's a vine lantern. Nezuko stared at the flower. With this, you'll be able to marry the person you love and be the happiest girl in the world, Tanjiro told her, grinning. But no matter how long he held it out, his sister did not reach for it. He cocked his head to one side. She seemed unhappy somehow. Maybe he had caused her to worry by disappearing like that. If that was the case, he had wronged her. Sorry for worrying you. His voice grew even gentler. The flower's pretty, right? Nezuko looked at the flower silently, took it from his hand, and put it in her hair. Seeing Tanjiro break out into a grin, she smiled too. And then she took the flower from her hair and affixed it to his head. HM? No, Nezuko, that's not what I meant, Tanjiro said. I don't need the flower. You. The smile disappeared from her face, and her eyebrows rose up in concern. Aw. Her eyes looked incredibly sad. He felt like he'd seen that emotion in them somewhere before, a long time ago. The younger sister stared at her older brother, as if reproaching him. He caught the scent of something like pity. Sorry. Unable to do much other than return her gaze, he abruptly remembered a moment from the past. Stop apologizing, Tanjiro. Why are you always saying you're sorry? Tanjiro gasped. He forgot why now, but his little sister had been angry for once that day. She had looked at her brother with a rare sternness. It was right, it had been a cold day. The falling snow was icy, enough to freeze him to his core. He was pretty sure it had been not long after their father died. Is it because we were poor? Did you feel unworthy because you wore a tattered kimono? His little sister said, glaring at her big brother. More than anger or annoyance, he could smell sadness. We tried as hard as we could, but it didn't work. It's no one's fault. Things don't go exactly the way we want them to. We're only human. The Nezuko in his memory overlapped with the Nezuko of the present. His heart cracked at those eyes brimming with such deep sadness. No, that's not it, Nezuko. I wanted you to be happy. You get to decide where your happiness comes from. What's important is now. Oh. When Nezuko's words came back to him, he suddenly felt like he'd been punched hard in the head. Right. His little sister had said that to him after he kept on apologizing because their family was poor. He couldn't dress her up in beautiful kimono, they did nothing but work day in and day out, their beloved father was dead, and Tanjiro was always asking his little brothers and sisters to be patient. Stop apologizing, she'd said. I know you understand. You know how I feel. Oh. Understanding dawned on him. He and Nezuko felt the same way. Above all else, he wanted to make Nezuko human again. He wanted her to live the lavish life of a girl her age. He prayed she would do it alongside a boy she loved. I want her to be the happiest girl in the world. There wasn't a day that went by that he didn't have this thought. Yet, Nezuko felt exactly the same way. Just as Tanjiro held his sister in his heart, she held him in hers. That was why she had given him the flower that brings happiness. Alive now, with a future ahead of her, Nezuko was not an unhappy girl. Their family had been slaughtered, she had been turned into a demon, and they would certainly come up against other hardships. But she had been accepted by the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, she had friends who cared about her, and she even had a boy who loved her and cared not at all about her being a demon. Tanjiro himself was fighting for her happy future. Thanks, Nezuko. He pulled his sister to him and hugged her gently. Nezuko responded by squeezing her brother tightly. At this certain, warm pressure, tears spilled unbidden from his eyes, and for a while, he simply hugged her silently. Hey, why were you crying? Inosuke asked curiously. You hurt or something? Inosuke, Zenitsu chided him quietly through his own tears as the moment's emotion swept through him. Read the room. If you can't, then at least shut up. So, the boy in the boar head replied. Why'd Soichiro go traipsing around the mountain, anyway? Were you not listening to a word I said? He went up there to pick the vine lantern. See? That. Zenitsu pointed at the flower in Tanjiro's hair. Inosuke glanced at the flower lazily and said casually, but that's not a vine lantern. Huh? Tanjiro and Zenitsu replied in perfect unison, gaping. It's, too bad about yesterday, huh? Zenitsu said timidly to Tanjiro the next morning. Tanjiro was upsetly lying in the yard and bathing in the sun. In the center of the yard, Inosuke was racing around, shouting, "Boar supercharge!" Next to Tanjiro was the wooden box that held Nezuko. The flower that Tanjiro had picked the night before turned out to be not a vine lantern, but a boar winterberry. Because the petals were terribly sweet, animals generally devoured them. For some reason, boars wouldn't touch them, and because of that, they bloomed quite often near boar dens. In other words, the boar the previous night hadn't read Tanjiro's mind, but had simply invited him back to its den as thanks for saving its life and treating its wound. This flower didn't only bloom on the night of the new moon, apparently. It also bloomed the night of the full moon and in the morning and afternoon, as one would expect from a flower. It's because I was saying all that stuff about making girls happy and that maybe the flower actually existed. I feel kind of bad. Zenitsu hung his head. No, I decided to do this myself. It's not your fault at all. Tanjiro shook his head with a smile. Yesterday, you said that I sounded weird, right? Oh, yeah, I did. And I didn't really get it myself at the time, but when I saw Toyo looking so happy, this beautiful bride, I thought how miserable Nezuko must be not being able to bathe in sunlight. And then there was him, not being able to dress her in beautiful kimono. Not being able to let her live in the light of the sun. Dragging her into bloody battle, hurting her, not being able to give her a single one of the joys of a girl her age. He'd felt so bad about all of it, he could hardly stand it. He hadn't known what to do. But Nezuko. Zenitsu looked back at him in silence. Nezuko was not a girl to be pitied and assumed unhappy. Just like she had when she was a person, she was trying to live and be present in the moment. Nezuko was the one who would decide what happiness looked like to her. Maybe that meant marrying someone she loved and running away together. Or maybe not. Either way, it definitely wasn't something he could push on her as her older brother. And yet he had jumped to the conclusion that his little sister's now was unhappy and pitiable and tried to push his happiness on her. I need to defeat Muzan Kibutsuji and make Nezuko human again as soon as possible, Tanjiro announced, facing forward. I have to avenge our family. Tanjiro, Zenitsu said, sniffling. I'll do whatever I can to help. I'm super scared, though. And to be clear, I'm totally useless, weak, and I'm sure I'll die soon. I need you to not rely on me at all, but I'll fight wherever I can, so. Zenitsu. I really need you not to count on me at all, though. He lacked confidence to the point where he felt the need to repeat his statement. Even so, his kindness made Tanjiro happy. Hey! You guys gotta run around until you puke blood too, Inosuke shouted so loudly that it echoed not only through the courtyard but the entire town, abruptly shattering the tender moment. We're gonna take down the demon boss to make my third underling human again, right? So we gotta get stronger. Don't sit there whining your life away. Stupidero. Who's this third subordinate? How dare you talk about Nezuko? Zenitsu erupted in indignation. You're exactly right, Inosuke. Tanjiro laughed. How straightforward, how unwavering Inosuke could be, was truly dazzling. We have to get stronger. Right? Inosuke cried. What are you talking about, Tanjiro? Zenitsu said, exasperated. You'll break your ribs again, you know? And just when they're finally almost healed. Why should we come here to rest and then have to throw up blood? The whole thing is a terrible idea. Come on, minions. Follow Lord Inosuke. Inosuke's ferocious roar drowned out Zenitsu's complaints. Tanjiro heard the excited cry of a young villager on the wind. The bridal procession's coming. He gently closed his eyes and saw the fresh and unsophisticated bride-to-be Toyo in his mind, Hisa's gentle smile, and Akane and Akari watching over them, eyes glittering, cheeks flushed. He stroked the wooden box next to him with one hand, and a sound came from inside, as if in response. A small, very gentle sound. Smiling, he looked up at the deep blue sky. It was a perfectly clear day, not a cloud to be seen. End of Chapter 1. Thank you for listening. Remember to like and subscribe for lots more.